That's the thing. You'll be peeing in the parking lot, and they'll be like, "That's a sex offender right there." That
Yeah, yeah,
man
yeah. Oh, because he showed his
is,
penis at a park where there were
yeah,
kids.
yeah, and he's like, "No,
Yeah.
no, I just needed to pee in the bush," and they're like, "Nah, sir, you were probably wanking off. We know you were."
Yeah,
And
ween
he's like,
there.
"No, no, no! Look, the pee. It's coming out." I don't know what I'm imagining in this scene, but I'm imagining he's peeing, and he's trying to explain to this officer, like, "Look, pee's coming out." And the officer's
Yeah,
like, "I
yeah.
don't even want to look. Just we're arresting you, all right?
You're
Just
right.
well, dude. I wonder if they like grab him in mid pee. Like they
Yeah,
probably are like they probably
they
stay
probably
away
have
and are
they
like just
I
finish.
mean, they probably have training for that, and I'm pretty sure that they have to arrest them if they're doing something illegal.
And they can't let him finish.
And there's probably ones that pee while they're being arrested to try to escape. Do you know how many chords there are?
How many chords in total? Like
Yeah,
like music wise.
how many there are? Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, I gotta fix this.
There's a C major. There's a D major. There's an E major. There's an let's see. You know what? I think there's a better way to go about this. So let's see. A B C D F G. So there's seven. There's seven total chord, just like A B C D F G, right? And then there's majors and minors. So that's 14 in total there. But then you also have diminished chords.
So what else?
So that's another 7.
Okay, but like how many? Well, so the easiest way to do this is how many different types of chords are there?
Let's see. There's major, there's minor, there's diminished, there's augmented. You can also have a 7 chord, which is just adding that 4.
Major 7,
Major
minor
7.
7.
Yeah, it goes. You'll have a lot of chords.
9.
At the end of the day. Wait, 9?
9 chords?
9 chords.
Yeah.
I think you might have a little bit more than that. I think you have
No. There's C9.
Oh, C9.
All
yeah,
these other
yeah,
ones.
yeah. Yeah, it'll keep going. It'll keep going.
So yeah, there's a lot of chords and cables and stuff. It's crazy because the most chord intensive thing, music, there's a lot of different chords. It also uses a lot of chords to record them. Just 3 chords, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that is.
Record. People playing chords with chords.
With chords.
Mhm.
Or electric piano, right? You're playing those keys, goes through a chord, triggers the sound, which is triggering a chord if you're playing a chord.
Yeah. Or if you have an electric accordion.
Ah.
Wow, 5 chords.
Yeah, what about a chord on an accordion? And within that accordion, what if it's an electric accordion, and so there's chords going through your accordion, and you are playing chords on that accordion?
Yeah. And your name is Dan.
And your name is Dan.
That's just...
What if Dan's
Congratulations,
last name
Dan.
was Chord?
Oh,
Dan
wow.
Chord plays the accordion, and he plays chords on his accordion, which goes through chords, which is pressed by Dan Chord.
Yeah, and Dan was raised in a very formal household, and he's very cordial when he meets new people.
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so. Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm drinking some Aqua Hydrate pH 9 Plus today.
Oh, you got something different going. I've got a Nestle Pure Life. It's totally new. Ignore the little it's not like I just reused it so many times that the label's starting to fall off.
Wait, you did or didn't reuse it?
Oh no, it's absolutely new.
Okay.
A new bottle. Yeah.
Okay. This costs $6.
That's a pretty good price for that much water, I must say. It's pretty good.
Bad price.
Bad price, you think?
Yeah, well, because this is the pH 9 Plus.
I mean, that's a lot of water still. I guess maybe you could get something like that, just the regular kind, for maybe $3.
No, like 99 cents.
Really? I thought
Yeah.
water prices were.
Well, like if you're talking about gallons of water, there's not like a gallon of Voss water. There's not a gallon of Fiji water. Um, if you get the 50-ounce one, the 1.5 liter of the nice waters, those will be like $3.50, $4. Which is, I don't know, basically like a third of the amount that's in here, but it's like, branded water. Or sometimes they have glass bottles. But this is yeah. Apparently the process of pH balancing may cost more, or they can just charge more because they're the only company, one of the only companies that do it.
I mean, at least you get a lot of water, because water bottles are expensive. Like, this shirt's maybe pretty cheap comparatively, but it's if you're getting, again, like Life Water
Yeah.
or Fiji water, something that's supposed to have like the electrolytes in there, right? It's gonna cost. It costs quite a bit. Sometimes it's up to like $3 for a bottle, and you're thinking, geez, $3 for this bottle of water. At least there they gave you 3 times the amount, I guess,
Yeah.
for $6. So maybe it's slight bargain.
And they had a sale where if I bought 3 of those 50-ounce bottles, it would be cheaper than buying this because it was $186 on sale.
Huh.
But I don't want to buy 3 bottles. So
I get that.
It's pretty good.
It's a good refill bottle too, you know?
Yeah, I've just been getting into, because our body is there's a lot of water in our bodies and stuff,
Definitely, yeah.
So like the source from which you get your water from has a big impact on how your body functions. And so, doing some research, and what happens is, all of the water that we've drank before, somebody else has drank it before.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Like, I mean, technically, they, people piss into the ground. Everything. I mean,
Yeah.
that is the sound. I mean, of somebody
Sure.
pissing in the ground. It's
Yeah.
it's a very not a very, what do you call it? Cordial activity. Talking about peeing into the ground, but we've got to go into it.
It's fine to pee on the ground. Maybe not in a city, but in the woods. I mean, all the other animals pee there.
As long as you're not peeing. But then
Because
again,
baby, me and you are just mammals.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like,
why is this guy trying to have sexual acts with a baby?
That's the thing. You'll be peeing in the parking lot, and they'll be like, "That's a sex offender right there."
Yeah. Oh, because he showed his penis at a park where there were kids.
Yeah, and he's like, "No, I just needed to pee in the bush," and they're like, "Nah, sir, you were probably wanking off. We know you were."
Yeah,
And he's like, "No, look, the pee, it's coming out." I don't know what I'm imagining in this scene, but I'm imagining he's peeing. And he's trying to explain to this officer, like, "Look, pee's coming out." And the officer's like, "I don't even want to look. Just we're arresting you, all right?"
You're right.
I wonder if they like grab him in mid pee. Like they
Yeah,
probably are like they probably stay away and are like, just
I
finish.
mean, they probably have training for that, and I'm pretty sure that they have to arrest them if they're doing something illegal.
And they can't let him finish.
And there's probably ones that pee while they're being arrested to try to escape.
Maybe. So maybe they have to withstand.
And poop. Then they poop too.
Probably, yeah, right in the back of the police car. It's probably like.
Just that sucks. Yeah, people taking poops. That's probably an offense. That's probably a law.
I think so. I feel bad for the people who, like, in a parking lot or something, and they're like, "Man, I gotta pee so bad," and then they're like, just one time, please let there not be anybody around."
Yeah,
and then that's when the cop. Yeah,
I pee in public a lot.
You pee in public a lot.
Yeah.
I've done it before. I've like been walking down the street and like at night sometimes, and I'm like, "There's a bush over there." I'm like, no one's gonna know.
Yeah, Barbara Bush.
Barbara Bush, yeah. She's hiding in the bush, and I just peed all over her.
Yeah, that's fine. She was sleeping.
Mm.
But anyway, what I was talking about is these water treatment facilities. Like when you flush your toilet, it goes down the drain into the sewers, and then it gets taken to a water treatment facility. And what they do is they take the poop out, and then put it back into the system, and then it turns back into drinking water.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's mixed in with all the stuff that's, the all the stuff that's melted from like mountains and all the reservoirs. How do you
Reservoir.
reservoir? Yeah,
Reservoir.
reservoir.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's a weird word.
so it's mixed in with the glacier water you're talking about, or rainwater, or
Well, I mean, I guess it's like a mix of everything, right? Because there's so many different sources of water that kind of
yeah,
you would never know.
A large percentage is from the toilet.
Yeah, I'm sure they recycle. I mean, right? That
Yeah.
you just wouldn't know what you're getting, really.
Right.
Especially stuff that comes. I mean, bottled water. It's like I mean, I don't know. Some of them claim to have like these springs that they get their water from.
Yeah, no, that's real.
Yeah, and I think the stuff out of your sink is just recycled water. It's just city water,
Right. City water. So what happens is when people, let's say somebody has a prescription for Adderall, okay, and another person has a prescription for Oxycontin because they just had a surgery on their kneecap. They take those drugs, their body metabolizes those drugs, and it uses them. Some of it doesn't get metabolized, and then it goes into your urine and your poop. Okay? That makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes and it gets flushed down to the water treatment facility. The filtration system isn't specifically designed to remove those particulates of those drugs. So they get filtered through, they take out the poop, it gets tested, it's the proper, it doesn't have any poop particles, it has a small number of poop particles left. It still has trace amounts of all of these drugs.
I've heard of this before. It actually goes into the oceans too. They find fish that have consumed just over time different drugs because this stuff is also going into the ocean. The stuff that's recycled, the fish take it in. That's it's a pretty bad problem.
Okay, so then it's going through, and then you drink it again, and so now you are somebody who is not taking prescription drugs, but now you have prescription drugs in your system.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine they say eating seafood now too. There can be a lot of interesting stuff.
Is that Chinese food? Is that what you're talking about?
Chinese food?
Yeah.
Oh wait, what?
Seafood?
Seafood. I mean, it could be Chinese food.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it could be abbreviated Chinese food.
Right.
I don't know if the Chinese are putting drugs in their food.
Yeah.
They could be, but in this case, we do know that the fish
seafood has like mercury and stuff in it, or like you've heard of other
or even
other
like
drugs.
when they take in this when they start also having these trace amounts of prescription drugs in their system.
Yeah.
If you eat that food, you're also consuming whatever they've consumed. Same
Right,
with
right,
small little plastic particles that are ending up in their system. That's happening to humans too.
Yeah.
They find trace amounts of plastic particles in our system. It's pretty awful. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, and that's why you don't want to eat fish that were grown in fish farms, because those fish were farmed.
I'm totally guilty of that. I've eaten farm fish before. I have. I definitely prefer wild salmon and stuff like that.
Yeah, but basically what happens is, on normal farms where it's crowded and they're eating poop and stuff.
Yeah.
Same thing with the fish.
Yeah. I mean,
and poop's
also,
okay, because like when whales poop, then the the plankton and other small plants use that as fertilizer or food, and they grow, and then the whales eat them. It's a cycle. But when, like, if human eats human poop, it's bad. But if you turn it into compost, it can be great for plants. So it's same thing for salmon. They're pooping out stuff that their bodies can't use. Other salmon are eating their poop.
Yeah, it's weird. Some creatures are designed to eat poop, and other species are not designed to eat poop.
Right.
Isn't that a weird thing? It's like the plants, poop eaters, can eat as much poop as they like.
Yeah.
Some animals even like to snack on poop.
Yeah.
They have to go and nibble on little poops that they find. Certain fish like to eat poop.
Mm-hmm.
Plankton like to eat poop. Plants in the ocean like to eat poop. But some people, they shouldn't eat poop because it's not meant for them.
I'm gonna put up a poop counter. In the edit, because you probably said it. My guess is 11 times.
Yeah, we should count it the whole entire episode. See how many times it came up.
Okay.
In conversation, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't know of an easy way to do that, but we'll figure it out.
Could be kind of weird just popping on the screen a poop counter. We won't even announce it. It'll just go bling.
Yep, you just said it again. Yeah, so what happens when you go to the store and they're out of the food you're trying to buy?
I mean, am I grocery shopping? So
yeah, at the grocery
I'm buying
store.
multiple different things, and I can't find a specific item on my list.
Well, do you go with the list?
No. I mean, sometimes I'll just internalize it because, you know, I just know what I'm looking for if it's short. But so you mean I've gone there for, like, I'm out of certain items that I would usually get, and I can't find one of them.
Yeah. But I also want to know, do you ever come up with a grocery list?
I've gone with a grocery list before. I have, but not often. Usually when I'm buying, it's just kind of short lists, sporadic shopping trips.
Yeah, I made out that question because sometimes I'm moving on to the next segment, and I just start having to ask a question, and then,
I think it's a good question.
As I'm doing it, I usually just get frustrated. But what I usually do when I go to the grocery store is I have the specific aisles that I shop in, and usually it's around the perimeter of the store, because that's where the produce is, and it's just safer on the perimeter.
yeah.
You get into like aisle 5 and 6, is the candy and chips aisle are right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like scary. Like I can walk down that aisle.
It's tempting.
It's just
though.
It's not.
Okay. I mean, like, you see a good snack, and sometimes.
Yeah, maybe because I wonder if any weed particles are getting reconditioned through the filtration system, and maybe that's why there's an obesity epidemic.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like the that kind of the munchie symptom, right? Of like smoking weed is that goes along with like the more noticeable effects. So like, even though people may have traces of weed in their, I mean, I don't know though. There could be a slight little munchy symptom coming through. That's interesting to think about.
I really don't think it's related to the obesity epidemic.
I mean, I don't think so either. No, that would be very strange if it was. But it would be interesting if it played a small effect. I don't think it's like the main reason why we have it. That would be ridiculous. But it would be interesting to see what the effects of all these drugs in our system are doing. Like, how does it affect our daily life? even biology over time, evolution. What's that gonna look like? I don't know.
Definitely. And now this is a segment that I like to call Interesting Facts. Yeah?
Interesting facts.
Okay. No. Yeah. Interesting facts /stats.
/stats.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So the guitarist Slash from the Guns N' Roses, just interesting facts about him.
Okay, I bet just about him.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard
Or
that
stats
dude,
about him.
or stats about him.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's a good stat about him? He I can't think of a single stat.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to make
this
up
is
a
a
fake
terrible
stat.
This is a terrible segment.
No,
This is awful.
I actually I like the segment. I think it's a good
Okay.
segment. One day we'll bring it back when we have him on the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
we'll have him on the show. And actually, I should make an apology.
Yeah, where's Grandre, dude?
Grandre, yeah. Yeah, she keeps changing her name. I don't even remember what it was, but I wanted to apologize. We couldn't make that happen. Actually, Mark banned me from all my social media accounts. He
Lost
got up
contact with her.
Yeah, with Jack too, and made him delete my
Damn.
Twitter, which I totally had. And it's if you want to see Gondre on the podcast, just get this video out there, or this clip, whatever this ends up being.
Right.
Send it out there, because obviously somebody out there doesn't want us to have Gondre, right?
Yeah,
Am I saying that
Ariana
right?
Grande.
Ariana Grande.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and what
yeah,
I was thinking
Grande.
about was just getting a what do they call it? It's where there's a thin line handle. It's not a handlebar, but it's a chin strap. I was thinking about getting a chin strap, beard goatee, and photoshopping it on Ariana Grande's face. And maybe we can put that up here.
Yeah. Maybe
Just
it'll
as-
entice her to come on the show if
Yeah. Her him is actually
him.
no, it's
yeah.
her him.
Him.
Yes,
Him. Okay.
and that's not appropriation.
No, not at all. And I think him, Grandre.
Yeah.
Harim's always mentioned that Harim has wanted to go on this show, but I'm telling you, someone out there is trying to make it so we can't contact the people that we know. We also know Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson. He likes Tyson. He likes the pronunciation on the sun.
Yeah, and we actually we just know a guy named Ty, and his son's name is Mike. It's not the famous Mike Tyson.
No.
Definitely not.
He just likes to have the mic in front of the tie, and he's a son of
Yeah.
somebody.
No.
So
Well, he's Ty's son.
yeah, he's Tyson. Yeah,
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Yeah.
But his real last name is Weathergood.
Weathergood. Yeah.
Yeah.
He changed it 5 years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
only we know. 'Cause
And he's actually a meteorologist.
yeah. We've
know,
known
there's
him
like,
for a long time.
There's like Sue Storm, and there's like Brian Hale and all these people. Well, he's Mike Weathergood.
Mike Weathergood. Mike Weathergood.
Yeah, Weathergood. He doesn't even. Here's Mike Weathergood with the report on the weather. Weathergood. That's all he says.
Weathergood.
Yeah.
Do you know Nicholas Prison?
Nicholas Prism or Prison?
Prison. Like like a cage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We know him too.
He's an impersonator.
Yeah, he is.
But what I was really gonna say was, interesting facts /stats. That's actually a segment.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think we should bring some stats.
Well, no, I have them in my head.
Oh, you have them in your head. Okay.
And you have them too. You
I-
just need to think of them.
I do. Here's one that I just thought of this one. I don't know
Okay.
why I didn't think of it before.
Sure.
But did you know that Bill Barr actually ate too many granola bars last night and overdosed?
I don't know who Bill Barr is.
He's just the guy who likes to eat bars.
What?
He's just Bill Barr. Ate
I thought
too
you were
many
just
granola
butchering
bars.
Bill Burr's name.
No. No. Bill Barr is a separate man.
With 2 R's
He
or
used to
1
be a
R?
very important guy.
1 R or 2 R's?
I believe it's just 1 R. No, maybe it's 2.
Well, anyway, he
Bill
died.
Barr. Yeah, he overdosed on granola bars.
R.I.P. dog.
Yeah, I
R.I.P..
know.
Rest in pieces of granola bars.
Yeah. It also that's kind of fitting for that joke. Too.
Oh,
It's a pretty
wow.
bad joke. Bill Barr overdosed on granola bars.
Did you make that up?
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
God.
not the name Bill Barr.
But he didn't die.
No, he didn't actually
Okay,
die.
wow. I believed you
No.
100%. I thought you were saying my joke about pieces of granola bars was bad, and it was. Here's a fact. Well, number one fact that we said earlier was poop, water turns into drinking water. Okay.
Yeah.
Second fact is here's a stat, which I'm using as a fact. 40% of people who go to a 4-year university will not complete their degree within 5 years. And 40% of people in the United States are obese. 40-40.
Are we thinking that maybe here this is just a theory. But here's how the process I think works. Kids go into college, right? University,
Yeah.
and right when they get there, they're given a large bag of nacho cheese chips. It happened to me actually. I remember
Yeah.
even community colleges do this too, but they don't have you for quite as long. But they know they're gonna transfer you right into a university. Like immediately when you say transfer degree, they're like ding. They know immediately. So they don't start off that large, but they build you up to it. In the universities, they know when the freshmen come in, they got to start them off slow too. But just a bag of nacho cheese chips, and slowly, hey, maybe you want an extra serving of ice cream today. And when people say no, they just kind of shovel it
So
for you. In your
I was
sleep.
one of the rare schools that didn't have the nacho cheese chips, and I'm curious: are the chips made out of nacho cheese, or are they nacho cheese flavored like Doritos?
That's not real nacho cheese.
Is it like
not.
actual? Is there any cheese involved at all?
No. There's no cheese. There's some dairy products in there, but it's kind of powdered. Just
Yeah, so that's an interesting stat comparison 40-40. Here's a another one. 95% of people over 40 have died.
someone. I'm gonna. Just
That was
come
not
up with-
true either.
Oh, I was gonna come up with theories to all the stats that you were.
Well,
coming
no.
up with,
So here's a stat: 100% of people. Wait, over 99% of people have died.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to say then.
Yeah.
My theory to that is somebody is killing these people,
Yes, something is killing them.
or someone.
Obesity.
Obesity is he's a complicated person.
Right.
He doesn't want to be there all the time, but sometimes he has to be there. People invite him to the party, and he has to show up. He's not going to be impolite. He's not just going to stay at home That's not how physics works. You know, he's going to that party if you invite him.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm really trying to say is everybody that's alive is alive, but everybody else who was alive is not alive anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say with the stats. So as far as we know, nobody has been alive and then continued to be alive.
I mean, someone could be alive and then continue to be alive, right?
Yeah,
Because
but for
some
how
people-
long? Because then they are not alive anymore.
I mean, I guess there's a potential time cap on how long you can be alive before
Right.
you can't continue being alive,
Uh-huh.
unless some people are being cryogenically frozen in a lab somewhere.
Well, they're not alive.
What if they're like what if they're like they're doing something with the brain. You got little
They're not alive anymore.
little monitors going on there, and they send electrical pulses, kind of like stimulate the brain to keep them just
Yeah, they're not alive anymore.
zombie-like state.
And even if they were alive and they got frozen and then brought back to life later, they still were not alive for a while.
What if they wanted them to?
That's the whole point.
What if there was some guy? He had so much money that he said, "I want my own lab built and research done." And by the time he thought that he was gonna die, he was like, "Put me in this thing, right? Hook up this stuff to my brain so that you can continually send like pulses to keep it going.
Is his heart
Keep
beating?
just barely alive."
No, it's
Well,
not. He's
you know,
alive.
maybe they developed something where it's like a little like thump. It's like a simulation too.
Oh
'cause,
yeah,
like,
okay.
he gets to
Okay.
roam around in the simulation until they wake him up from it.
I don't know. My stat still stands strong.
That is very likely.
Yes.
That is
no,
very
100%
very
factual.
likely. Yes.
100% true. Can't even be debated for a second.
I mean, I would say
For
in
even
the
a
current
second.
state of humanity, I would say yes. That's
can't
very
even can't even be debated.
Unless somewhere there's just some dude who's just like,
Right. And like there's probably people that have been undocumented and have been lived like I'd say the max is so far it's probably 140 years.
yeah, they've.
I don't know. See, even undocumented. Some people in the Bible live up to 200 or something. But
And that makes you wonder.
and God was telling Abraham to kill his son.
I have a theory about that whole thing with the Bible.
Oh, the whole thing, yeah. Okay.
I think there was a lab owned by Jesus back then where they cryogenically froze. I'm telling you, they cryogenically froze Jesus, which is why he came back to life. Totally explains that. And the
Oh.
people who needed to live 200 years, they just froze him. And then they basically were like,
Oh, they were frozen too?
yeah. Anyone who lived to 200, and they said, trigger the pulse. Doop, 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 doop.
Where are they getting
And then
electricity from?
They just, God just gave it to him. It's true. I'm telling you.
Oh.
God gave the electricity, and then they built a lab, and they kept these guys alive so that they could write down 200 years. Yeah, 200 years.
Okay.
Shut off the machine. Shing.
Yeah, a lot of your theories have to do with technology that we don't have.
I can't even support these theories anymore.
God gave Jesus electricity so he could come back to life.
Yeah.
You know, it's debatable on whether or not it would be more believable than what many people believe. And here's the thing. A lot of people believe in God and Jesus Christ. I don't know how many of those people believe that Jesus Christ came back to life? I don't know. It's probably more than 10%. It's probably less than 80%. Dying and coming back to life. So then they would have to believe in that. But a lot of these people work at biology plantations.
I mean,
and
in
not
that
racist
way,
ones.
they must not believe, too, that the world was just, the traditional was created in 7 days. It's only this many thousands years old. The dinosaurs didn't exist. They kind of have to change their worldview to fit in with science. Which, I mean, I'm not a religious person, so I don't know how often this is the case. I don't know if some people just stick to a field and say, this is what I know scientifically.
Yeah, they just point out a random field they're driving by.
Yeah,
it's not very good data.
I mean, I guess if somebody was severely religious and they went into a scientific field, to succeed in that field, they would have to accept what is known about the universe, what we know right now, right? To be able to study
that's what science is.
Yeah. And also to know, to even be able to study anything in that field, you have to know what there already is known about the universe. You have to know, you have to just know what's out there. You can't just start from scratch
what's concluded about the universe, because science becomes a religion itself because of the way people use it to make decisions. When the only true thing about science and what we know about the world is that we don't know everything. But if people are having rigid diets and ways that they live their life based off of the known data, which is science, it's guaranteed to be leaving out information. So science is a religion that I think a lot of people are ascribed to.
I think that science is different, though, from common religion, because some of the stuff in science is actually provable. And we know now that
it's constantly disproved.
It is. I think that there's some things that we've known for a while that have commonly been known as a fact. Like there's some things that have repeatedly been tested over and over again. It's produced the same exact variables. It's done that for years upon years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things as well where we just know if you do this, like smoking causes cancer.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that we know because we've seen it so many different times repeated. The conditions,
right? I mean, that's what believing in science is. But you got to imagine, a lot of things that were proven have been disproven.
That's very true. I mean, I think that some things, like science, is constantly just a bunch of theories, and then a bunch of theories that have been proven. And some have been proven more concretely than other things. But there's still some things that if you wiped away all scientific data, some trends would still show back up.
Okay, so here's an example. Okay, so you know that there are 12 months, right?
I mean that's kind of a little bit out. That's kind of like it could be changed.
I haven't
right?
said my point here.
Okay.
I
so
mean, there's 12 months,
I guess
right?
Traditionally, in our society, how we make up the year, we decided 12 months.
Okay, it doesn't matter how you phrase it. It's just there's 12 months. But let's say you're a scientist and you've never heard of months before. Okay? And so you discover that there's January. And then you discover that, after a certain period of time, it changes over to February. Right? And about after 4 or 5 months, you're like, oh, well, it looks like there's going to be another month coming up. August, October. Then you get to December and you're thinking, oh, well, there'll just be a 13th month. But actually the way it functions is it loops back around and now you're in January again. So what I think happens is you can look at science and it can concretely say, okay, these repeatable tests give us this certain result. But we don't know how that test or how that thing that you're testing functions as a part of a larger group of things that function.
I definitely know what you mean there. Um, I think though there's some things that are more loosely based and some things that are more concrete, as in some things would just show up again. If you wiped all the data, if you burned all the scientific books, there'd be some things that would reoccur again. Like smoking, they'd be like, "Oh, we now know it causes cancer." Would have been that way the first time around too, even if they burned all the
Right.
books.
I'm not talking
We
about
just
burning
go
the
through
books
that
though.
phase.
I'm talking about um let's say we've always measured gravity to have a certain amount of power, and it has different power on different planets, right?
Yeah.
Um let's say after we're measuring that, even if we took away all the data we've already gotten on it, and then we took all the data we wanted, we'd probably get the same thing, right? But we can't say definitively that it wouldn't change, because what if the way it worked was, every 100,000 years, gravity actually shifted by 20% in one direction or the other? What
I
if that just was the case, and now we're measuring all this stuff, it's going to change, but we're now expecting it to be a certain way?
Yeah. That's why I mean it depends on the variable. There's things that are more loosely based and things that are more.
I could use that example on pretty much anything you could come up with, I think.
I mean, you could say that in 1,000 years there's some change in the atmosphere and in biology that makes it so smoking doesn't cause cancer. But in the world that we live in today, we know certain things to be true and certain things to be more loosely based.
Well, some people, it doesn't cause cancer.
For very rare circumstances, but most people will develop health issues. It's why there was a whole epidemic for a really long time where people were getting lung cancer and they couldn't. I mean, eventually they figured it out. Eventually they figured out the main culprit is smoking. But then again, there's some people. There's like super old people who have been smoking their whole lives and they live until their 90s, right? And those are outlying cases too. So again, like it's repetition, basically knowing. So it's like walking up to somebody and saying, "Here's a pack of cigarettes." The person
Right,
would say,
and
"No,
that's
I
the
know
same
for a
exact
fact
that's
that
the
that
same exact
could."
thing as gravity changing suddenly.
But I mean,
It's
like
like
the gamble is a lot. Is a lot.
I'm not saying smoke because science doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying that just because it's been proven over a period of time doesn't mean that it's going to always be that way, because we don't know what actually causes these things to happen.
Definitely.
We actually have no idea.
No. We
know
don't
gravity
know
exists, we
everything.
can measure it, but we don't know how it actually changes.
Yeah, no. I definitely agree with that. I don't think science explains everything. I think it just explains a portion of what we know in the current time frame that we live in. And a lot of that stuff ends up in probability just being correct. Like for instance, what we know about even addiction, or what we know about um, people who, let's say, um, there was a whole thing with like diesel, right? And the whole scandal where it was at first thought to be cleaner, and they eventually started to realize that actually it's more toxic than just regular fuel. There's some things where they understand that something is bad because they see the effects on humans, and repeatedly it happens. Doesn't mean it always happens, but the gamble, the risk is
Well, I'm not even.
still present.
I don't think you're getting what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't need to. You don't need to change what you're doing. You can listen to science, because it's gonna give you a better educated guess of what you're gonna do. But what I'm saying is you don't know if those things will change, and so it's to me, science is not a fact because you don't know the underlying reasons why something happens. So here's an example. Let's say that you're 3 years old. Okay, you don't know anything about different companies, or you don't know what branding is. You don't know how to read. And let's say your mom works at a Wendy's. Okay, and every night she comes home with one of those baconators, and they have square patties. Okay, and she works there for like 3 years, and every night she's coming home with a baconator, and you're like, okay, well, I'm probably gonna get a square patty and a baconator tonight. she actually changes jobs to working at Burger King. You based on your facts of repetition, you think you're going to get a square patty, but then you get a round one day. Then what?
Things
Right?
Things can always change, but there's some things that aren't just going to change immediately, like snap overnight. In terms of even what we know just about how humans work, there's no way that in just a flash of a day, everything just stops. Right? Over time, sure.
How do we know?
That,
How do we know that just at a certain number of days the Earth doesn't just disappear?
I mean, it very well could. We don't even know what's out in space. It could be swallowed by a black hole that we never see coming. There's many different possibilities, but at the same time, there's still a reliability to science. It's not completely reliable because, of course,
I know, but that's why I'm saying it's a religion. That's why I'm saying it's a religion.
I would say
because people ascribe to
it. I would say it's a little bit different because of the fact you can have somebody who says, I believe that this happened, right? And there's no really effect on the real world. They're saying, I believe this happened. Or maybe they actually, or maybe they think that something's happening in reality that really isn't, right?
Okay.
I've never heard of a religion that says, don't do this because this exact effect is going to happen. And then when somebody does it, immediately that effect happens. And it happens over and over and over and over again.
But it doesn't happen reliably like that across the board.
I mean, it doesn't across the board, but it also happens frequently enough to where somebody isn't going to do something because they know the effect that this is going to have.
But yeah,
is
you don't
most
realize
likely going to do this.
Okay, so I went to Catholic school for 7 years, and I've done a lot of other research on world religions, Buddhism and Judaism and all these other religions. Okay, I have an extensive knowledge of religion. People they're not always attached to the stories, but they're not attached to factual events that happened in the past. But there is actual knowledge and wisdom in the books of all of the religions. And like some people, they're like, okay, I just take the best parts of every religion. And there are actually good parts of religion or people wouldn't do it. So very similar to science, when you take the facts and you make your actions based on that, if you act following these certain guidelines laid out by these religions, even if they're not on a factual basis, they yield results in your life. So people who follow these religious ideologies, they're having success in their life based on the actions they've taken because of those religions. And that's why they hold so strongly to them, because there's truth in them. And to me, the same exact thing is happening in science, because there are some super fundamental things that make sense, and then some parts of science, they're super confusing and controlled by business interests, and all of the research institutions in this country happen at schools, at universities, and so now the schools have to get all this funding from these researchers, and now the whole school is trying to do research for large pharmaceutical companies and large business interests. So like what we're researching is so misguided by big industries that like we can learn a bunch of facts about humans, and there's a lot of good researchers also, but just like religion, there is some things that probably didn't happen and they said they did happen, and there's also some stuff that they tell you to do that's not actually going to yield results for you. But what happens is if you follow all of it, it's going to bring you success. And to me, science is if you follow all of it, you're gonna make educated decisions.
I agree with religion yielding good results for people and having good meaning in it. I mean, all religions have some of the bad, some of the good. I will say, I think the whole thing with the problem with science to a business intervention and it being very concentrated in universities and things. And of course, there is a certain amount of education that you need to be able to do research, because there's certain scientific principles that we know that just work when you're researching new things. When you're
Sure.
trying to study outer space, there's certain things that you just have to know. There's no oxygen in space. There's certain things that you
Right.
need to know, that every human needs to know. With religion, I feel it's different because it is a belief that works for some people. Science is something that I think can be applied to anybody, because there's some things that people really should know exists out there, because it's so important for all of our success. And you should know about other planets. You should at least know, just have some idea of geography and just things that we know exist. It's so important that everyone is educated, at least to some extent, in that, while religion is really dependent on each person. So I guess I understand how there's religious components to science, but I think it still is, it's on a different avenue of its own, as in there's many principles that can be applied to just many different people, I guess. And I think it's super important that some people at least understand some components, even if later on down the line something about it turns out to be not true, or if something changes, some variable in the world changes and our whole understanding of the world gets completely shifted. Currently in the timeline that we know, these things work, and it's important that you know them, because there's just some facts that you go out into space, there's no oxygen. If you're underwater for too long, you're going to drown because you don't have any oxygen underwater. I think there's just some principles that it's just important that everyone understand them. And even across religions, they understand that you can't just stay underwater and
Right.
expect magical oxygen
Right.
bubbles to appear. It's like there's, I don't know, there's some
There's
understanding.
there's a factual basis to a lot of this stuff, and I think there's a few things. But number one, it seems like you have an aversion to the word religion. But basically all I'm saying is a belief system. And science is a belief system, and so is Catholicism or Judaism or any of these other religions. Um, Something to add is that these people who are following the religious ideals have practical and measurable results in life. It's not like they have a fulfilling life because they're living in a delusion and just personally they're having enjoyment in life. I mean, they're actually successful in ways that people who also believe in science would say this is a measurable result. We just don't know how to quantify how they're able to do this when they're not doing whatever people who believe in science are doing. Whether it's trying to do anti-aging stuff to increase their telomere length, or if there's all sorts of things that people do based on science. There's sorts of things people do based on religion, and they both yield results, and they're both incredibly inaccurate when actually trying to figure out what's happening.
I don't think there's anything. Well, actually, religion has good qualities about it, depending on how people use it. People have used it for very evil things
Same with science,
and very
dude.
good things. Yeah, and businesses can use science. Like, again, you could even say the internet age, right?
Yeah.
Developed by science. There's some negative stuff that comes with that, right? And there's also
Mhm.
some positive stuff. Um, I don't want to say I have an aversion to religion, because I've seen many good things that religion can do. But there's also a lot of killing in the past, and a lot of very violent things that have happened, and that's not and that's to be separated, I believe, from the good qualities, because people take religion and they do great things. There's charity. There's a lot of people who it changes their life, their habits, things like that. Um, and I would not call myself necessarily an atheist. I'm more of an agnostic, I would say, where I think it's very plausible that um, there's something else out there. Of course, like I'd want to believe that. I wouldn't want to believe that it's just nothing, because that's pretty scary, right?
I mean,
But
some people really enjoy that thought. That if it's just going to end, then you will make the most out of it, and people even can have a mindset that some people who are religious have in taking the most out of each moment because it there is nothing past what's happening. So, wanting to believe there's something definitely also has its merits. Um, yeah, I just think if we take anything, any ideology or anything that somebody else is sharing with you, whether there's facts behind it or not, if you take that as a law or you take that as the only possible truth of what's happening, then you're not going to be capable of being the next person to make a new discovery, right? Whether just any discovery at all, you to move beyond what other people know, or to understand that in communication between people and communication between different languages, it can be challenging for people to understand what's happening. Because a very simple example of this, and then maybe a little bit harder of an example, in Catholicism, they had it was originally written in a different language than English. So somebody had to write down their ideas first, which is very challenging. Have it in the exact words of what they wanted to say, which is different than the way that they actually understand the information. They have to take all of their understanding and boil it down to words. Now you have to trust another person to take those words and turn them into a different language, which has a different sensibility than the original language. And now we're using that to define our life. Okay? What happens in research institutions is people are highly educated and they're able to go over the information using their scientific knowledge and language. What they're learning, what you learn in school, whether you're a doctor or whether you're someone in finance, you're learning a language. And sometimes the language has technical things that you actually do that aren't actually words, but you're learning how to do something. So when you're really good at research or you're in the scientific community, you have a way that you speak. And then there has to be people that can translate that into how common people understand information. So when that happens, there's also a lot of information lost. There's so many discoveries that happen that we don't learn about because we're not always actively seeking this new information, and that's what it takes to be a true follower and somebody who's really invested in science. It's not just handed to you.
no, yeah, definitely. What you said in the beginning about what was it? It
Transcribing the Bible and stuff.
yeah, transcribing like the Bible. I definitely I agree that there's similarities between religion and science. Definitely there are. I just think there's also it's just not in the same category. It's very much, it has qualities that a religion would, but also with the real time, immediate, if we do this, we're going to save somebody's life by doing this exact procedure and doing it this many times. They can even pinpoint to a point, oh, the reason why he died is because this is what went wrong in this specific procedure. There's real-time results that, of course, are going to change and alter over time, and it's also very manipulatable, where science evolves with the times. It accepts what we know to be true currently.
Yeah,
and what we have studied.
it's a different style of what I would call a belief system, but could easily be called a religion. It's certainly different than any other religion.
But a religion is also something that people choose to believe in or not, or choose to accept or not. And a religion also,
Yeah, people don't believe in science.
I think
Right?
that is a huge problem, though.
It's still the same thing,
because-
though. That argument you're making, the same thing happens in science.
Because it would be a different thing to say someone who's Christian that's safe. And I'm not saying not all Christians believe this, but let's say somebody is let's see. Says if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to go to hell. And I want you to believe that people shouldn't have sex before marriage, that gay people shouldn't be able to get married, a list of things that obviously not everyone believes in. I would say a majority of, well, I can't even say that, but
Yeah, a
I
lot of
would
people
say a lot
believe
of
that for
people,
sure.
I would say that a lot of people, I was going to say a majority don't believe that in
Okay,
this country, but
but a lot of people do.
a
Anyway,
lot of people do
go
too.
ahead.
But at the end of the day, they're saying this versus science is saying you have to understand that if you do this, you are going to be putting your life at risk.
Mm-hmm.
That is a known fact, and it could change in the future. But you not believing in this is harming everybody around you. If you don't know that this specific thing is harmful to humans in the current stage that we know right now, and if you do this thing, there's a 90% chance that this
Yeah,
person is going to be affected.
but it doesn't.
You
Okay,
have to like
here's the
it's
challenge
something that
though.
has to be known
Right. Here's the
across
challenge, though.
humanity.
Just like the example you were using with, you have to know that there's not going to be oxygen for you. That is something that we know through our own experience, and we know through other people telling us this information. Um, it is sort of like you could describe any person as a scientist, even if they don't necessarily believe in science, because they're going through their life doing experiments and they're evolving their understanding of the world. Okay? So like it's hard to call you need to know to hold your breath, or that you have a limited oxygen supply. It's hard to call that science. It can be scientifically measured, but that's something that anybody, even before science happened, that anybody who had lived in the world for a long time, or they knew other people, they knew that fact. Okay, so I don't really know how to call that specifically science.
I would say that's more of a loose example, and that I think is an example that we all are in a way scientists. I think because that is something that we know about the universe through repeated testing. Everyone knows it to be true.
Yeah,
But
it doesn't have to be
also,
it doesn't have to be a controlled experiments as pure science is, right? That just can be discovered.
but there's also certain things where, let's say, somebody doesn't know that carbon monoxide is bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they think, screw science. I'm gonna ignore my carbon dioxide detector in my house, carbon monoxide detector in my house, and just let it ring. And then they die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they leave their kids locked inside because
Sure.
they don't know. There's certain situations where it is important that people have a basic understanding.
Yeah, and
as to what science
anybody
is.
would listen to that regardless. If they bought the sensor, they're going to use it, and those people can also be a part of a religion who ascribe to that.
Yeah, they can. But that's where I mean science. I think is applicable to all people versus religion.
Yeah.
Religions, and I think this is where the defining thing is. Religions, when you say plural, religions are a choice. Science is something that most people need to have a basic understanding of to make sure that they're not harming people around them, to make sure that they also have an understanding as to just how things work, to be educated, but to also understand that they should accept new ideas as well. Because, of course, I don't think anyone should just go through their life thinking that this one thing is true and that's it. But I also think there's some things that we know to be fact, or fact in the current fact in our current stage, because
Sure.
we understand if we do this, that is going to happen, or perhaps one time it won't happen, but I don't want to take that risk because there's a 99% chance, or even maybe in that moment in your mind you're like it's 100% chance because probably it's never not happened before, right?
Yeah.
So the majority percentage is in the favor of it happening. You are going to curb your behaviors because you know this. And if it turns out to be true, which, again, when it's leaning in that majority kind of area, better to be safe than sorry. I
Yeah.
would say definitely. I think there's moments where science becomes really important, and there's moments in religion where it's like that's a great lesson. Some people are going to accept it, and some people won't, and that's fine. But there's some things with science where people, it's so important that people understand
Yeah.
that even
And
religious
that's
people, it
and that's
crosses over into religion.
that can be a bit of a challenge. I definitely agree with what you're saying that some scientific facts are important for people to know for their safety and for their health. That's very important. Um, I would argue that a lot of those can be reached without a pure scientific understanding of what happens. With the going underwater example, and um, even something where if you have anyway, I'll not get into that. The important thing to understand is you were just saying that it's important to understand. Okay, so this happens in religions too, where they have parables and lessons which are more conceptual, and then they also have things that you follow that will bring you success in life, and even things that can't be proven by science but later are validated by science, right? So the example of why Jewish people don't eat pork, um, that was in there because of presumably the reason it is in there because people who are eating pork and it was super unsanitary at the time, people were doing that, it was going to have an unhealthy effect. It wasn't based on science, but it ended up having a positive, quote unquote, scientific result because of what they're doing. And then also in the, what is in, I think it's Hindu. They have, it's I don't know if it was part of this other thing, but our Ayurveda is a lifestyle practice, which isn't necessarily has a foundation in science, but now after 2,000 years, it ended up has they're starting to validate it now. So to me, in all these religions or all these belief systems, which aren't founded on fact, actually have a lot of wisdom caked into them and a lot of things that aren't functional. But in the same way, and this is why I continue to compare them, it has a positive impact on your health and safety. And so, so does science. It just gets there in a different way.
I definitely agree. There's a lot of things that were incorporated into religion, but I would say that it was science incorporating itself into religion in a way, because there's some things that they found, oh, we fit, this trend is happening, how are we going to curb it, and they found a way to do it, like with the pork example, right?
We don't know.
They
We don't know
realized,
why it happened.
well, I
We
mean,
can assume.
supposedly the pork example, right, where it's unsanitary, and I mean that's even
Well, we
what
can. The only thing that we can guarantee is, with the pork example, is this was in there, and now, this is the effect that it's having now, and we can prove this. But we don't know how it got in there. Somebody with a purely scientific mind would guarantee, based on their facts, they would say the only way that they could have come to this information is by experimentation. But we don't know why that it was in there.
but the religion itself, the Jewish religion, I only know this because I've got a Jewish friend, but he said he doesn't eat pork because it's in the book, but also because it's unsanitary, or at least they believe it to be unsanitary, right?
Well, no, especially at the time of the book being written, it was unsanitary. Now it is, uh, it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah, but they still do it. They still
Mm-hmm.
don't eat pork. At
Right,
least traditional people who are Jewish,
right,
and I
right.
believe Muslim too. I don't think they eat pork either.
Okay,
Um, and I don't think they actually drink either. I think that's another thing the
okay.
Muslims don't do. I think, but um, I would so we can assume that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they are also assuming that that's it's interesting though because they snuck a little bit of reasoning in there also.
Where?
But like people who and I don't know if all Jewish people this is their part of their reason, right? But I've been explained before that of course it's in the book and therefore it would be viewed that God doesn't want you to eat pork, but also that eating pork is unsanitary or that it's an unsanitary creature and therefore they don't want to eat the pork.
Sure.
So that explanation is put in there along with the religious side, right? And when you're explaining something, I think there's like tad bits of science that is weaving its way in there because it's looking around and it's saying, what's a possible reason for this? And I still think that if you look at religion, it's very much it is trying to explain things. It's trying to explain many things that science can't provide. But then there's always the point where eventually science kind of catches up, like with the world being flat. There's still some people who believe that the Earth is flat, which I think is I don't know. To me, it just it's insane to me.
Based on my personal experience, there would be no way for me personally to disprove whether the Earth is flat or not.
I mean,
there's no way personally I could.
Flying though alone, and unless there's some giant government conspiracy where they put up.
I don't know. All I'm saying is, when you are driving on the road, it seems to be flat, and when you go up in a plane, you fly horizontal to the ground. I'm not saying that I believe it or not.
The horizon though point down. Even the guy who went up in the balloon in the documentary, he proved himself wrong. But what he told himself when he proved himself wrong, he said, "I must have done something wrong."
Right. I don't need to get into the flat Earth thing.
I mean, yeah, no, that's
I'm just
different.
saying, even that is not a personal experience. That was somebody going up in a balloon, right? So you're personally, like, all I'm saying is there's no way for me to personally prove that, and that can definitely be a challenge for people because it's just other people telling you stuff, probably through the internet. So that can definitely be the challenge there. But the most important thing I think to tie this up is now with science we make the assumption that the reason that it was in there is because it was unsanitary, right? We're making that assumption. We don't know why it's in there. And so if we use the science mindset, we will always make assumptions like that. And we may then think, okay, using the scientific mindset, if it's in there because it's unsanitary and now it's sanitary, we can take that out. But we actually don't know why it's in there. If it's in there because of a larger group of ideas that we don't understand, we actually don't know the foundation of it. And I'm not saying that, like, I believe that God wrote a book and then now people act their lives out because of it. But there is really important information in there, and to purely use a scientific mindset and then to dissect something using that mindset without actually participating and understanding what this religion thing even means, I think that there'll never be an understanding between science and religion because science doesn't allow for somebody to experiment outside of science oftentimes.
I definitely think that's also a problem. That's a separate problem, I think, with science as well, like the rigidness. But then again, we see proven again, too, that there's always people willing to fight against the rigidness of the system when they look into something further that's supposedly already been proven, right? Like science, the earliest point, like just the earliest stages of science, right, would have accepted, like universities back then would have accepted the Earth is flat, right? Until somebody was brave enough to step outside of the scientific community and make them understand that it was true.
Right.
Religion, of course, would kill people and eventually accepted it as well. But I think that's science's role is.
But it's facts versus ideas, though.
It is facts versus ideas. But religion at the same time, you can't really find. I wouldn't say, maybe some people can find comfort in science, but I would say the roles of religion too.
Have you ever been a part of a
play
religion or believed in a religion?
No,
So
no.
then how would you know what the role of it is?
Well, I don't know. It seems like people find comfort in believing in something, right?
Okay.
Like that's at least
Would you
like
say that's an
a stand.
assumption or
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe some people don't find a comfort in believing in something, but I would assume that there's a like I find it more comforting myself to want to believe that something is true,
okay.
or to try and think there must be some bigger reasoning or something maybe that extends beyond what we just currently know to be true.
Okay.
But um, it seems like religion is always it kind of it holds its ground as it stays the same, and it's meant to do that. I don't think it's meant to change, except for things that are huge, like the world being round. Obviously, economic incentives. Having to understand this because the proof is in the pudding. You sail around the world and you say, "Oh, it's obviously we can't keep this up. We have to change," and so they do. Um, but there's some things that will never change as far as religion is concerned. They're not going to be doing any soul searching or say we need to remove this from the book. It will stay concrete, which isn't a bad thing. It's just science's role is to move around a bit more, try and figure out the truth, try and sometimes it is too rigid. But again, I think there's always those people who consider themselves scientists who are willing to break through the fold. Um, I would say I would be worried that maybe that could be happening less often, or maybe the rigidness is starting to slow down our innovativeness. That would be something that I would be very frightened of. But I would say that science's role is very important, just as religion is the separate entity that gives people comfort and gives people reason for certain things that they don't they don't even know anything about, or philosophy. There's great lessons to be learned about how you can treat others. There's also some very bad lessons,
Right.
but
But science also gives people comfort. I think no matter as many things as you could throw at the idea of the similarities between science and religion, there's to me there's always going to be a comparison to be made. People get comfort in they're doing the right thing because they're eating the right way according to science, or that they know that they have a certain number of years to live if they live this certain lifestyle. Right? There's comfort in knowing things. And it's very very similar to these religions. One thing I would say is, like, if you're gonna make the comparison, like, I would say Judaism and Christianity are very similar in terms of their rigidity. I don't know that much about Islam. Uh, I probably, based on my limited knowledge, I would put those together. But then there's like Buddhism and Taoism, which are like the opposite of being rigid. So if you're able to put Taoism and Buddhism in the same as Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, if those are they're like virtually polar opposites. These two religions don't believe in. It's not about dates or places. They're very short ideologies, and it's more of a way you live life. It's not about people or places or things you're supposed to do. It's like a way you function using your inner dialogue. And so if you can place all of them in the same group as a religion, I'm going to easily put science in with it as well.
I wouldn't necessarily say that I'd put all religions in the same group,
But we call them religions,
called,
right? So that's why I put science in there, because of the diversity of religions.
I mean, I would say though that religions are classified as religions because of the fact that and sure, I don't know a lot about Buddhism and you said
Buddhism and Taoism.
Buddhism and Taoism.
Tao.
I don't know a lot about them, and I don't know how they've changed over time and how they've. And then again,
they don't change because the only founding principle in those belief systems is that there is change.
Yeah, no, and I think
that's the whole thing.
I think that it's something that does go to prove that religions are different. All religions are different. But science is not something that I don't think tries to go and explain stuff without research, without saying, like, science would never try to tell you what happens after you die. It couldn't possibly tell you that. Religions can try and explain stuff that are so far beyond us even understanding. They have an explanation for it, but a religion isn't going to attempt to cure cancer. It won't, because and maybe one day it will. Maybe one day there's going to be some religion that forms some sort of huge research.
Well, yeah, and your
program,
your
I don't know,
your
but
scientific assumption is that the way that they would cure cancer is by doing something scientific, right? And so
Yeah.
so you can see how
Well, maybe they
your
will.
scientific mindset will now be making assumptions about how a group of people will act that have a different belief system than you. And the only guarantee is if someone has a different belief system than you, they're going to have different thoughts than you, they're going to take different actions. So if we're trying to understand other people using our own belief system, it's not going to work. We're not going to know how somebody would figure something out.
I guess what I'm saying is currently, right? There is no known way for a religion to cure cancer. But I mean, I'm not saying
And
that
there's no
that's
cure
not
for cancer
true.
from science either,
No,
right?
no, there isn't. I'm just saying that, and maybe there's some religious group. These are things that I can't say definitely if it's true or not. Maybe there's some religious group that's trying to cure cancer by practicing tons of different things, and they're really looking into it. It's not public knowledge. The only thing that I know is that there are scientific programs that try and study and understand cancer more, right?
Yeah, for sure.
People donate to it. Religions support it openly. I believe that science is a piece of every religion, but science is not the same as religion. I think there's a distinct difference in the crossover that there is. Religions take in bits of science. Science has changed religion over time, and from what I can see, it feels like religions, I don't want to say are in the middle of the scientific world. I don't want to necessarily say that they're just scattered in the middle or anything. But I think they're a part of science in that way. But I definitely do not think that science is just, there's science, this religion, this religion, this religion, all on a tier like that. Put the title religion over it. I think science is more of an overarching theme because people in every single religion believe certain parts of science. Some of them fully accept scientific
but again,
principles.
it's just basic information that people are accepting. That it isn't necessarily science.
Well, I mean, what about, like, I bet you there's somebody from every religious group who has donated to some scientific cause. Cure this, cure that, cure cancer.
That's part of their religion. That's by acting within their religion, that is an action that they would take. That's not a founding principle of their religion. That's the religion adapting to the times because of this specific thing is happening.
Yes, but they are adapting to science in that way.
Well, the people of the religion are. The religion isn't.
No, the religion perhaps isn't, because there's people who
It's the people in the religion,
science.
and they are adapting because of what's happening.
Science is the overarching theme. It extends across all the religions.
And so does all the other religions.
I mean,
they all participate in science.
There could be a Buddhist Christian, I suppose, but it's more likely that there will be a Christian who believes in science, just like how there would be a Buddhist who would believe in science. To me, I see it as the overarching theme that extends across the different religions.
No, but you're not understanding though. That it wouldn't. The reason I think that they're the same thing is because there wouldn't be a true Christian who would also believe in science. There would be a true Christian that uses science, but it's not their founding belief system, right? Like the highest order of things of what am I going to use to make decisions based off of? I don't think both of them are up there. And if they're both up there, then they're not a Christian. They're a hybrid, which to me would be the fusing of two different religions. Just as if it would be easier if somebody was a Buddhist, which if someone was a Buddhist and they also used some Christian ideologies, I mean they could easily fuse together, but it's right up there.
I would say though that not only on an individual level has science absorbed into religion, but even changes. Like, for instance, finally the religion, the world is flat example, decided to realize that it was round. Or, for instance, people starting to, even the Pope, I think, is an example, right? I think he said something, he's become more, how do I say it, less traditional religious, right?
Sure.
He's kind of been leaning a different way because he's starting to realize some of this stuff is a little bit maybe cruel, maybe some of it is a little bit unfair that's written down in these books, right? Because knowledge is changing, and I think there's a element of science that influences religion, and I think it's something. If I had to, I'd say that religions are kind of like very tough stones, and I'd say science is more like the clay that can sometimes also be very rough and hard to change around it, but still something that if you really try, you can really push to mold into something else. The religions would be the stone in the middle of this clay, and if you push the clay really hard enough, I mean extremely hard to get it to change, eventually you might see a small change in that rock, but it's all dependent on one another, and science is more of a larger ecosystem.
All of them are dependent on each other, but basically what I heard you describe was one stone that was easier to change and one stone that was harder to change, but you were still describing stones. And there's not we don't live in a world of isolation. Everything is intermingled with each other. I think we could, I mean, what happens when people have different beliefs is you can continually talk about, or as some would say, argue or discuss a topic. So I don't want to like keep it beating a dead horse, but I think we covered some good ground there.
Definitely.
I don't know if we can go back into normal conversation, but I bet you that was over an hour. So
that probably was over an hour. We got to have some different podcast material, you know. Some
that was
stuff.
that was great. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, same here. I enjoy discussing like serious topics too.
Oh yeah, for sure. It had been a while.
Yeah, it had.
Now we get something a little more professional. We can stop messing around so much. So next week we'll have maybe have Slash and Ariana Grande on. So thanks for watching. If you liked that, tell your friends and your mom about it, because subscribe and stuff like that.
Tell Ariana about it, please. Gondre, please.
Yeah,
you gotta connect us with her.
All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.